Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Credit Chat. I'm Rod Griffin, Senior Director of Consumer Education and Advocacy for Experian. Queen Saxton, good to see you again. Thanks for joining. Hello, Harlan. Thanks for being here. And I can't keep up, so that's fabulous. But thank you all for joining. If this is your first time at Credit Chat, please bring your questions. Let me know what you want to know about credit reporting and credit scoring and fraud and ID theft. That's what this is all about, is really helping answer your questions so that you can make good decisions. And in the time we're all going through right now with coronavirus and COVID-19, getting those questions answered is really important. I can't, right out of the way, unfortunately, I can't answer questions about credit reporting systems and scoring outside of the U.S. I'm in our North America operations for Experian, but I have great counterparts who are providing lots of good information out there in the UK and other parts of the world. So please check your websites for Experian in the countries where you are residing, and you'll find good information as well. But please do ask. I'll do my best to answer, and if I can't answer, I'll tell you. But I hope you're all doing well and staying safe, and because I know how stressful this time is, I'm sharing it. So we're all in it together. That sometimes sounds contrite to me, but it's true. And, you know, I have friends and family that are affected, and I know you all do too. So thanks for being here, and thanks for the questions right out of the gate. I owe 750,000 pounds to 860,000 pounds. How would you recommend I pay it back? You know, that's British pounds, so I can't really speak to the British system. But if it were dollars, I think the advice would be the same. If you have a plan, I presume there will be payments due every month. Make sure you're making at least the minimum due. If it's for like a mortgage for a home or a residence, make those payments on time, and over time you will begin to pay them down. And you know, in the U.S., if you are looking at your overall financial situation, talk to a good credit counselor. There are great nonprofit credit counselors out there who can look at your overall financial situation. Doesn't mean you have to be in trouble. Doesn't mean you have to be having difficulty. But if you need help in figuring out how to budget, how best to allocate your funds, there are great financial managers. There are great counselors out there. Talk with them. Get professional help and objective guidance. And that can help move you forward too. So, and help prioritize your debts and other payments and expenses as well. So, I think that's kind of universal. So don't be afraid to get help, and especially now with what we're going through. Ms. ZD4, great to see you. DFR_AZ, will deferred payments affect your payment history? No. So what will happen, and what we're seeing now in the credit reporting system as a result of COVID-19 are that the CARES Act, as well as the credit reporting companies, Experian and our counterparts, are working with lenders. We have in place tools and reporting resources to allow lenders to report accounts that are in that have a payment accommodation. So whether that's forbearance or deferment or some other agreement with the lender. When an account, in your instance, is put in deferment, the payment history while that account is in deferment remains the same. So there would be no new negative information reported. If the account's current when it's put in deferment, it would remain current. If, for example, your account was 30 days late at the time it went into deferment or prior to being affected by COVID-19, it might show that it's 30 days late, but would remain 30 days late. It wouldn't become more delinquent. So the answer is no. Putting payments in deferment or an account in deferment would not affect your payment history. It would continue to show as the status it was at the time that was put in place. So you can do that. It helps protect that credit history, helps ensure that as we go through this crisis, if you were affected by COVID-19, that you'll be able to pick up right where you left off and continue on. And that's our goal. For people who are continuing to work, have regular income, and need to have access to credit and are able to make their payments, things should continue pretty much as normal. You know, we want to make sure that information is updated regularly and accurately. If you're affected by COVID-19, we want you to take to utilize the resources that are available to you through the CARES Act and other resources to make sure that your history is protected. So we want to make sure that the credit reporting system continues to work, because it's going to be essential when we get back to work, that it still be there, still enable lenders to make risk decisions, still help you get access to credit. So it's a balance that we're trying, definitely really working hard to strike. Blake J. McKenzie, thanks for joining. Ms. Precious 74, hi, good to see you. Queen Saxton, should I call the creditors first or send the verification letters first? Always talk to your creditors first. And if sending verification letters as part of a credit repair plan, they may or may not work. So disputing information in your credit report, you can do that. You can provide documentation. If you go online to experian.com/dispute, you can upload documentation with each of the accounts. We'll send that to the lenders. It's up to them then to verify that the information is either accurate as reported, that it should be updated in some way, or that it should be removed. And that's what the process will be. So always talk to your lenders first. They may have options available to you that they can work with without going through all of those other things. Verification letters may not, what's often referred to as a verification letter, may not be effective. So work with them first and then take additional steps. Do you still have to pay for charge-offs or closed accounts? So a charge-off or charged-off accounts are considered a final status for that original account. They will typically say transferred to or sold to collections. So you should not pay the account that shows charged off or the lender with the charge-off. You should work with the collection agency because they are now the legal owner of that debt. So if an account says charged off, it means that the original lender has determined that that's a debt they're not going to collect. They can transfer it or sell it to collections. So it's a final payment status. So pay the collector or the collection agency that you would then see on the report that should show the original delinquency date from the original creditor from that charged off account will be deleted at the same time, but work with the collection agency. Closed, kind of same thing. A closed account is an account that is no longer open and active. It's a final payment status. Open accounts would say open, could say, would say current, things of that sort. So payment status and is important. Things like deferred or forbearance, you may see now more often if you've worked with your lenders instead of open or active, or so you wouldn't see charged off or collection. It's a payment status or repayment status. But if it says charged off or closed, that's a final status. That account is no longer the active representation of the debt. Look for the collection agency. In the event of it says closed. Paid as well, as if it's an installment loan, you would see paid instead of open or in repayment. So paid, closed, and paid and closed are usually positive. It could be closed at the lender's request. That used to mean something. It doesn't so much anymore. Just it's closed. People open and close accounts so often that who closed the account really doesn't have a bearing on scores or lending decisions. So closed, charge off, final status. So kind of a long way to work around that answer. Peaceful Journey, thanks for joining. Sister to Sister Beauty, thanks for joining and being here today. Again, if you're just joining, I'm Rod Griffin. I'm Senior Director of Consumer Education and Advocacy for Experian. This is Credit Chat. I'm here 1:30 Central, 2:30 Eastern, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I missed this Tuesday. I was actually recording a podcast and couldn't make it here. So I apologize for that. Try to be here anyway. Tuesdays, Thursdays, 1:30 Central, 2:30 Eastern. And we will be on Facebook Live and Crowdcast tomorrow at 11:30 Central. So join us there. Also, very much like this, we want to answer people's questions. We're going to talk about credit scores and how to work with them, what they mean, how they work, what you need to know, and have open questions as well. So hope to see you there. We plan to be on about 30 minutes, maybe longer, depending on how active we are. So join us there on Fridays. And on Wednesdays, of course, we're on Credit Chat on Twitter, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern. So we're trying to be as available as we can be to share as much information as we possibly can to help you through this time. So thanks for being here. I finance your phone through a bank. Why do these loans not show on your credit reports? And it's not all accounts do. So if it's a finance account through the telecom company. The telecom providers often don't report those payments, and so they're not part of the credit report. Lenders do not have to report accounts. If they choose to, the law says, here are the things you need to do. So it's very likely that the bank simply doesn't report those kinds of accounts to the credit reporting companies as a business decision. Would be my guess in this case. I'm trying to scroll down and make sure I see everybody. Isaac GH, thanks for joining. Ms. Precious 74, how can you get late payments off your credit history even though the balance has now been in full? So late payments will remain for 7 years from the original delinquency date of the account if it fell behind and was never again current, or 7 years from the date of the delinquency. If it became late, you caught up again and brought the account current. They're going to stay there, but the further in the past they occurred, the less effect they have on scores. So you don't have to worry about that. If you brought the account up to date and it shows it's been paid in full, it will show paid or paid in full was X days late, 30 days late, 60 days late. But in time, that's going to be charged off. The good news is that it's paid in full. That's positive, so that's going to help. And over time, those late payments will come off of the report, leaving the positive information. So the account, if it's paid in full, 7 years from the original delinquency date, if it were delinquent at the time or late at the time it was paid off, the account will fall off the report. If it was current at the time it's paid off, 7 years from the date of the missed payment will go away, but we'll keep that positive account for 10 years. So it will help build that history. So be aware of that. But the accounts stay for the period of time that's specified in the law. You're currently 750. What steps can I take to get to 800? So Sean John 2105. A couple of things. You have your score. Look at the risk factors that came with it. They will tell you exactly what you need to work on to make your score better and that particular score better. The numbers can differ depending on where you get them and what the scoring, what we call model is. So is it a FICO model? If so, is it a FICO 8 model or a FICO auto score, or is it a FICO 2 or a FICO? There are lots of different FICO scores. Or is it a Vantage score, which is a competing company with FICO? So is it a Vantage score 3.0 or Vantage score 4.0? So the scores will differ. So I always stress that you shouldn't look too hard at the numbers. Know what score it is, know where it's from, know what the scale is, know what it represents. Generally, a 750 is quite a good score. And the higher the score gets, the harder it is to make it better because there's just less room for improvement. And that's what I keep telling my wife is I'm almost perfect. And she just laughs at me. So, but I can't quite get to perfect. So that's kind of the case with scores too. The closer you get to that 850, or depending on the score, maybe a 900 if it's an auto score, the harder it is to improve. However, if you look at those risk factors, they will tell you exactly what to work on. They might say things like the balances on your credit cards are too high, even though you may have very low balances. So if you pay them down a bit more, your score might creep up some more. And time is going to be part of that. Keep making those payments on time. Keep your balances as low as possible. Pay them off if you can. And use those risk factors to inform your decisions, and you'll be able to move up. But time is going to be a big factor as well. And as you make changes in your history, you make more charges or pay things off, the score will go up and down. So I don't look at my scores every month. I look at them when I'm going to apply for credit. I may check them if I'm doing a presentation and it might be asked, so I'll share them, and that kind of thing. But I only look at the scores when I need it. I worry about my credit report far more than I worry about my credit scores. And you're doing the right things. So keep doing those things is what I would tell you. Do you have to pay the creditor's fees? Queen Saxton. So the fees that are included, if you have late fees or overdraft fees, they would be included in your payment that you need to make to the creditor. If they charge them off, they may be included in the collection amount because it's part of the debt you owe to them then. So the answer is probably in that case. I don't have a podcast yet. We're working on it, but we don't have one yet. Would love to, and we hope to get there. Just have had our plates too full to get to that step, but we are we are planning it. We just have to get there. So we'll have a Credit Chat Live podcast, I hope, in the coming few months or sooner. So that's our goal, and we'll let you know when we do. Sean John 2105, thank you, and thanks for the claps. And Breezy 161, thanks for being here and sharing and asking questions, because one of the things we know is that if you have a question, others have the same question. And I've told people that I've been in the corporate world for 20 plus years, and I can do death by PowerPoint as well as anybody. I think they train us to do that. And which means I could tell you what I think you need to know and spend hours doing it and not answer any questions you have. So this is great for me because I get to know exactly what you're concerned about and what's affecting you and answer those questions specifically. So keep the questions coming. Peaceful Journey. How come disputed items get updated with a new delinquency date? They shouldn't get a new delinquency date. They can't really do that. The delinquency date is the date that the account was late, and that cannot change. There may be a most recent update date. There may be a date of dispute. There are different dates that can appear in a report. The delinquency date does not change. They cannot change that. So even if it's a collection account, they have to report the original delinquency date from the original debt. It's a violation of federal law as well as Experian's policies to change that date. So maybe I think you're probably looking at a different date, not the delinquency date, probably the most recent update date or something of that effect. That maybe it can look a bit confusing. The Turner Diaries is a great book about credit scores. I haven't read the Turner Diaries. I may have to do that. Ms. Precious, you're welcome. Queen Saxton, I have a loan from Sallie Mae back in 2007 on your credit report that I never received. How do I fix it? So if you have a loan from Sallie Mae, that's a student loan generally, you'll need to contact them about that loan. If it's reported from 2007 and it's open and active, I mean, I have to do my math. I mean, we typically don't keep accounts. It depends on how long. Well, let me back up. My brain is getting ahead of me. Was the account started in 2007? That's very different than how long was it in repayment and when did it become delinquent and when did it fall off. So if you had a student loan that started in 2007, but the payments continued until 2017, in my case, my student loans took between 10 and 15 years for me to pay off. So that's quite possible. They would still be in the report and still should be in the report because the delinquency date isn't 7 years in the past. That's what's going to be important. Something making my eye itch. So that's one date. That may be the open date. The delinquency date, original delinquency date, the date it became late and after which was never again current, is going to be the most important one. If the account becomes delinquent, it's charged off as a loss. They may send it to collections. They may not. They may have their own internal collections programs and so on. That account can still be on the report. If it's reporting open, it could still be there. If it's closed, charged off as a loss, we're going to keep that account 7 years from the original delinquency date that led to the charge off, and then it will come off the report. That date I need to know exactly what 2007 represents. I think that's the important thing because it could be a number of different things. Can you say again where you'll be tomorrow on Facebook? So we'll be on Facebook Live, and you can go to the Experian News Facebook page and find us there. So you can look for that. You can learn more about when we're live at ex.pn/CreditChatLive. So go to that website. You can learn. You'll find out where we're going to be and can see our past broadcasts as well. So ex.pn/CreditChatLive or on crowdcast.io. So if you go to crowdcast.io and search for us, you can find us as well. So hope to see you join us. And again, we're multicasting, so we want to be in as many places as we can. Revelation Ruth, thanks for joining. Old G. Roberts, sorry it is, but talking about credit reports and scores, some people find it fascinating. Maybe you'll learn a little bit and see how it goes. I'm always happy to have people learn. Like I said, I think accidental learning is as good as intentional learning in many cases. So thanks for being here anyway and stepping in. If you have questions, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to answer them as long as they're related to credit reporting, credit scoring, fraud and ID theft, things that Experian does and help support you. So thanks for being here. Sean John 2105, you're very welcome. Sal 161, CAU 169, thanks for being here. CCBC 100, thanks for joining. Sean John 2105, is it better to have some balance owed on your credit card for credit purposes or have it at zero? Have it at zero. That one of the biggest myths I hear is that you should only pay 95% of your balance to help your credit scores. That's absolutely not true. Now, all you're doing if you leave a balance is paying interest on that balance. It's costing you more money from a credit reporting standpoint. Ideally, you should pay the balance in full each month. There's no reason not to from a credit scoring or credit reporting standpoint. The balance on your billing statement is what usually shows on your credit report. So even if you made a charge and paid it in full, you probably would still see a balance. Just means you're not paying any interest or fees on that balance. So leaving a balance just costs you more money from a credit reporting standpoint. So absolutely not. Do not have to. Hello, Harolyn. Thanks for joining. Giuseppe Simone 89. Unfortunately, I can't speak that language, so I'm sorry. I'm in the U.S. In North America, and I'm Senior Director of Consumer Education and Advocacy for Experian. So thanks for being here. CCBC 100, where do you get the free weekly reports? Go to www.annualcreditreport.com. You can get a free report once a week for the next year. We're doing that so that you can make sure you have current information, that you can check the report as often as you need to make sure that everything's being reported correctly as we go through this crisis. So annualcreditreport.com is where you get that free report. Fan Farablu, thanks for joining and being part of the chat today. 676-400, thanks for 400, thanks for joining. That said 4,000 there for a minute. But thanks for being here. Thanks for all of the great questions and all of the hearts. Can you dispute false info from this as well? Yes, when you get your report, what will happen, and we did a video, so if you go to Experian News or to our Crowdcast post, you can find a video that explains, and I walk through how to get that report and how to dispute. It's very simple. When you get your report at annualcreditreport.com, when you do that, you'll go through and go to annualcreditreport.com, select Get My Credit Report, select the Experian report. What will happen is you will be passed into our system for security reasons. The annualcreditreport.com is a conduit to the three bureaus. You'll go into our system, follow the instructions to provide the information we need to verify your identity. We'll provide a report right there online instantly. With each entry on the credit report, there will be a button that says, I need to dispute this. Just click that dispute button, follow the instructions. Really simple to do, and we can walk you through that. We provide the verification along the way. So there's that quote paper trail that's always asked about. And so you'll have that information, very simple to do. And you can dispute if you find information. We encourage you to do that. How to go about getting delinquent accounts deleted after the 7-year mark. So peaceful journey. Again, I think the question is, when does that 7-year start? If you have documentation of the delinquency, it should be in the report. It will be deleted automatically, and we monitor those delinquency dates, so the delinquency would fall off on its own almost always. I'm not sure, I haven't heard of any instances where it hasn't, but if it doesn't, you can dispute it as inaccurate, and we should be able to take that off for you. CCBC 100, disputed with Experian, but they refuse to address the issue. Not knowing what the issue is, I can't really speak to what might help in order to resolve it. So I'm sorry to hear that. I'm not sure what the issue might be, but if you haven't had it resolved, you disagree with the results of the dispute, you should absolutely add a statement of dispute explaining why you disagree. That lets you tell your side of the story. It will be on every report anytime a lender requests it. Dark web notification is not part of a credit report. So that's part of the monitoring service that we provide, and we will monitor the dark web and notify you through our membership that we've found evidence that your identity is being used on the dark web. So you wouldn't see anything like that on the credit report. There wouldn't be anything to dispute there. I'm not sure, if there's an issue with information in the dark web, that's there to alert you so you can take action. You should absolutely get your report. Make sure that there's no sign of identity theft. If you find signs of identity theft in your credit report, you should immediately add what we call an initial security alert to your report. It's free. It says, I may be a victim of identity theft. Another way to get more free reports. And then notify the police department, get a police report. You can add a victim statement to your report that says, I am a victim of identity theft. You can add that as well. So not sure what's happening there, but that is not something that can be disputed on a credit report because there's no dark web information. That's an indicator that you are a subscriber to our monitoring services, and it's actually doing exactly what it's supposed to. That's saying, hey, we found evidence of use of your identity on the dark web. You need to monitor your report, take action to protect that history, and so help address that. So I'm not sure, again, what can happen, and there's legal action. I can't really comment. I don't know what the issue is. So not sure what's happening. I'm sorry. There's some issue there. Murillo's 01, thanks for joining, being part of the chat. Again, thank you all for being here. If you're just joining, I'm Rod Griffin. I'm Senior Director of Consumer Education and Advocacy for Experian. This is Credit Chat Live. I try to be here Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1:30 Central, 2:30 Eastern, just to answer your questions about credit reporting, credit scoring, fraud and ID theft, all of those things that are so important right now. So thank you for all the questions and being here. Retta Timmons, why do credit bureaus decrease in large amounts but increase in small amounts? So credit scores, your credit report just shows information, and I think that's an important thing to understand. A credit report and a credit score are two different things. Your credit report that Experian compiles is a record of your financial obligations with your lenders and other creditors and debt-related information. A credit score is a tool that lenders use to analyze that information to help predict the likelihood a person will repay a debt. And so the impact of any given thing in a report that might change on credit scores depends on a lot of factors. It depends on the credit scoring system that's being used, depends on your unique situation in terms of your credit history, and you may see large decreases. Typically, they'll rebound fairly rapidly. But if you're missing payments or multiple payments, you're going to see a bigger impact because it's a bigger sign of risk. And so, it takes longer to recover. If you've never had any issues, missed a payment, talk to your lender. A lot of times they'll just take that off because they know life happens. But even with a missed payment, over time you catch up on that payment, your scores can rebound more quickly, usually within a matter of weeks or months. If it's utilization rate, my experience, I share this over the holidays. I used one credit card. I traveled, so I used one card for security reasons primarily and to track spending, to make all of my purchases for fuel, for dinner for my families, for other expenses. My credit score dropped 40 points from start of November to 1st of January because the balance increased. I turned around, paid off the card. My score came back up 30 points, not quite all the way. It's still climbing, but utilization rate is something you can recover from quickly. Just pay down those debts as soon as you can. Your score will come back. Late payments, especially a series of late payments, are going to have a bigger impact, and it's going to take longer to recover because you did not repay the debt as agreed, and so that's a bigger sign of risk. And that's sort of fundamentally the way scores work. So it just depends on the situation, and so you may come back faster. Will 1 week late payment show us 30 days late? DFR and Square AZ, no. It takes 30 to, and it's the reason it's called 30 days late or 60 days late. Late payments are not reported to the credit reporting companies until the end of the billing cycle, which is typically 30 days long. So if you miss a payment, but you make that payment within a few days or a week, it will not come to the credit reporting companies in most cases. It would have to be a full billing cycle late before it's reported to us. So that's why when you see a late payment on a credit report, we're really saying, and you won't see late payment, you'll see 30 days late, 60 days late, 90 days late. So no, if you're just a day or two beyond your due date and you make that payment, it might still be considered late by the lender and result in late fees for them or interest rate changes, those kinds of things. But it should not be reported to the credit reporting company because you haven't not missed a full billing cycle. So it's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days from a credit reporting standpoint. Sneakerbox _ Sleuth, thanks for joining. Retta Timmons, you're absolutely welcome. How high does a FICO score get? Livity between us. It depends. And I love this question because people focus on scores. FICO has more than one score. Generally, their scores are from about 350 as a low to about 850 at a high. So the high score would be 850. However, they have other kinds of scores, like scores for auto lending. If you're buying a car, those scores go to 900. So you could have a score greater than 850. That's why it's so important to verify what score you're looking at, what the scale is and what the number within that scale that you received represents in terms of risk, because it's almost impossible to compare one number to another, because if you get scores from multiple places, they could be different scores. They could use credit reports from different credit bureaus. So one might be from Experian, one might be from TransUnion. So the numbers probably won't match. But the important thing to know is, do you have a good score on this particular scale that you're looking at? Because if you have a good score on one, you'll have a good score on others. I've never seen an instance where a person had good scores on one and not good scores on another. So 850 is kind of that high usually for Vantage Score and for FICO now. Now, Vantage Score is a competitor. If you happen to get a Vantage Score, 3.0 and 4.0, the two newest versions go to 850. Versions 1 and 2 actually went to 990. So there are different scores, different scales, different so-called perfect scores. And almost very, very few people have a perfect score. And if they do, not for very long. And I can tell you, I've hit 850 a couple times, and then it comes down a bit because I make purchases, I make changes, open a new account, whatever it might be. The scores fluctuate. So don't panic when you see that either. But 850 is usually that high water, the quote perfect score. I have 100% payment history. You're doing the right things. That's the most important factor in scores. Sneaker Box Slew, I have an account in collections for $800. Should I pay the whole thing off or call them and negotiate? If you can pay in full, the account would be reported as paid in full, and that's going to be the best thing you can do. Collection accounts now that are paid in full will show paid in full on your credit report, and the newest scores like FICO 8 and FICO 9. FICO 8 is the most commonly used score right now in lending situations. Vantage Score as well will exclude those paid collection accounts from the score, so you could improve your scores right away if you pay them in full. That's the benefit. So if you can, that's always the best thing to do. If you can't, you can work with your lenders, talk to them, negotiate with them. That's up to you, and to see how they report. And then if you negotiate, you pay less than the amount due, the account could be reported as settled. And if it's reported as settled, that's going to hurt your credit scores. It's not considered positive because you did not repay the full debt. So, not to say that's not a valid option depending on your financial situation. If you can pay it in full, that's the best thing to do. Otherwise, look at your overall financial situation and figure out what you need to do. I can pay the $800 in payments. And so that may be something to talk to them about, and let them know I can make those payments, could pay it off in full, and see what they can do for you. Why do people say not to pay off collections? I don't know. Other than I don't know. I can't. I don't know. I mean, it's a debt you owe. If you can pay it off, that's a debt that you owed under contract to someone else. You always say, put yourself in a situation where if you lend money or something else to somebody else and they don't pay you back, would you want to lend them more money, or would you want to lend them your lawnmower again, whatever it might be? So kind of the same thing with lending. You're borrowing the bank's money. And think about this. When somebody borrows money from a bank, they're actually borrowing against deposits in that bank. So they could be borrowing your money. So if they're borrowing my money, I want them to pay it back. So kind of all affected by that. And so don't know. I had 2 medical collections at $150 and $159, paid for removal, but score stayed the same. Well, so the question is, if you pay medical collection, the collection will not be included in the score calculations now for FICO 8, FICO 9 Vantage scores. So immediately can improve your scores. Medical collections also have less effect. So not sure what happened, except that it depends on when you paid it off. You'll need to allow 30 days, maybe 45 days, and then check your credit reports and scores. Make sure you're getting an updated version of your report and your scores, so that you're looking at the current one. Also, make sure you're looking at the same score from the same source. So been 4 months. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. There could be other things that changed in the report. And the score stayed the same, so it didn't go down. I guess that's a positive. It may be that they weren't, and that goes back to the issue. Maybe that they weren't affecting those scores significantly initially. So in the first place. So look at your credit report, look at your scores, check the risk factors. They'll tell you what you need to look at in terms of what's affecting those scores. It might not be those collection accounts. It might be something else. Also check your report, make sure that they are reporting as paid in full, and that if they're still being reported, which the history should show that they're paid in full for the collection account. So check that as well. And that's the best advice I can give at this from what we know from the questions. So thank you all for being here and being part of the chat. I'm just checking the clock, 2:05. Time goes so fast, but really appreciate you being here. Thank you for all of the fantastic questions. Join us tomorrow on Facebook Live and hope to answer more questions. We're going to talk about credit scores, what they are, how they work, what you need to know, and answer your questions. So please join us. You can find out more at ex.pn/CreditChatLive, and join us on Twitter every Wednesday, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern. You can learn more about our Twitter chats, our credit chats at ex.pn/CreditChat. And again, I'll try to be here Tuesday, 1:30 Central, 2:30 Eastern, and Thursday at the same time. Thank you all so much. Please take care. Please stay safe. Please stay well. And I'll talk to you all again very soon. Take care, everyone.